Shabbat shalom. Good to see you. Shabbat shalom. And I gotta tune up real quick. Forget about the capo. Last time did we not use the capo the whole time?
The only one you really need it for is Shalom Aleichem. That's pretty much it. Everything else you don't really need it. So do you want to start with this? Hello, Miss Ellen. Yes.
I know by heart blessing for the press.
Okay.
Rochelle has no idea where this in the book.
Oh.
It's funny, is it not in the beginning?
It is funny. Well, it's supposed to make it easier to find, but that's not the case. It's definitely not the case.
That is a really good
question. And it's
question.
like floating in the middle of the page. She's right.
No, you know where it is? It's
It's not at the beginning?
It's in the back of the book, obviously.
You see, because you brought this person to my...
You're right. I'm so glad.
Really
I care.
So last week we had a well, she's been here for a while, but that new person, I forget what her name is. Emily?
Emily, yes.
Emily?
Look at you remembering someone's name.
Now to make me officially
the ambassador. We'll
You
give you
know what?
epaulets. Like,
yes,
Exactly. That's what we should. We'll give you one. That is so funny.
that is really interesting.
I did. It's on page 303. And yes, and I'll even announce it.
You should make an announcement, though. You should say something. That's kind of a... They tested this prayer book on our class, on our rabbinical class. Not a good idea.
We told them that we hated it,
Yeah.
quite honestly.
Well, we did. But this is
We
like
said
the
it's too
20th
confusing.
iteration. I think we literally did say that. We literally said that. We had no diplomacy. We didn't have, no kindness. That's weird. Why do you think? Oh, it's Birkat Hamazon. But why wouldn't it be with?
Because we only do it on Saturdays usually, for whatever reason.
And because it's done at home, it's like blessings for the home.
Indeed.
It's because nobody has a home like Tia.
Oh.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Come on in. If you can hear my voice and aren't seated yet, you're almost in trouble. Come on in, everyone. Find a seat.
The Nasha must have been very good.
Welcome, everyone. Find a seat. Don't forget to pick up a Siddur, a prayer book on your way in. All right, my friends, we're going to begin tonight just by singing a little song to welcome each other in. On page 10, we'll sing the words of Hine Matov. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, how good and pleasant it is to be able to sit here together as brothers and sisters, as family and friends. But I know that you are not necessarily sitting next to your brothers and sisters and family and friends, so just in case you aren't, before we move on, I would love to invite you to take a moment and will you turn to someone who is sitting close to you, maybe even someone you didn't come here with tonight, and just introduce yourself and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. All right. Oh, this is a chatty bunch. I forgot. I should never have given you freedom to chat. It's going to be endless now. So I know that this is one of those nights where people come to synagogue for many different reasons. I know that we have a number of different simchas that we're celebrating tonight. I know that there are those of us who are here because we're honoring a loss in our lives. And I know that there are many of us who are here, who are watching from home, who are just a part of this experience because this has been a really, really hard week. And we feel like this is a time where we need to be together and hear some words of wisdom and some spirituality and something beautiful. So I hope that whatever it is you came here for tonight, that you find what it is that you're looking for. One of the simchas, though, that we are celebrating in just about 24 hours from now, not 24 hours, 12 hours from now.
Countdown.
I'm just excited for the party. So 12 hours from now
Steady.
is Jonathan Weiss is becoming bar mitzvah. So we are going to invite Jonathan and his family to be able to come on up. Jonathan and his parents, is that what we're doing? Yes. All right. So come on up and help light our Shabbat candles tonight. And their Shabbat candle blessing can be found on page 2. So we bring the Shabbat spirit into our midst. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we move on to do our kiddush. And so, Bobby, can I ask you if you'll lift our beautiful kiddush cup? Well, will you do the cup first? I gave you the artsy one. I don't know if you're impressed by our artistic cup, but well, anyway. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. You can take a sip if you want to. And then we were reminded tonight that even though we've been saying Hamotzi here for a while, it's actually not in the beginning of the book. So if you're looking for Motzi, it is on page 302. David, can I ask you to lift our plate of challah there? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. L'chaim, thank you guys so much. Oh, and you may have seen this meme going around, but you know, if you say the blessing, you actually have to partake in the mitzvah. So you have to try challah, even though it's not Mora Dayan, so I cannot vouch for its tastiness. But you have to at least try a little bite of it. Perfect. Okay, now we're good. Thank you, guys. And now you have to stand here and eat the entire thing while we watch you. No, I'm just kidding. So we're told that every time that we celebrate Shabbat, that the angels come into our midst. And surely sometimes it truly does feel that way, that when we're in this sacred space, that we really feel as if we are surrounded by blessing and people who bless us. And so we welcome in the Shabbat angels with the words of Shalom Aleichem, which can be found on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni LeShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem LeShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 29, there is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with a song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures and with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless, and we rise together for the Baruch Hu on page 28. Baruch Hu etz Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam HaMevorach le'olam. page 31.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On 33, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in the watchword of our faith on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavtam et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbacha uv'kumecha u'kshartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot beinenecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. On 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lot osef eleh, norati lot osef eleh. Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Chamocha is a prayer all about the freedom to be able to live our lives in the way we want to. And we know that sometimes in our lives we make choices that may not lead us in the right direction, but other times we make choices that are just exactly where we needed to go. And 25 years ago, Art and Judy Lewis did exactly just that. And so we are going to invite the two of them up here. And where did they go? Oh, there you are. Okay, good. I lost you for a second, Judy, so a little. Hang on.
She's got techela.
I want everyone to be able to see you.
Yeah.
You can stand in the middle so everyone can see your cuteness. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right, you look at it then. Was anyone here at your wedding, by the way?
Yes.
Who's at your wedding?
So my twin brother John.
You want to have them raise their hand?
Yeah, that's my twin brother John. My brother Bob. My niece Melanie.
How old was Melanie? Like 2?
7.
Okay.
And Linda and Jim Resnick are Art's
My
sister and brother-in-law, and Art's cousin Cindy, and our daughter Randy is back there. And Aunt Gail Lewis. Sorry, Aunt Gail.
Now,
And Debbie and Bradley Sachs back there.
now, here's the thing. Rabbi Michael and I were definitely not at your wedding because we were not rabbis yet. That would have been very weird if we were rabbis 25 years ago. But what the rabbi may have reminded all your guests at the time is that as they stood with you underneath the chuppah, that they were there really to serve as witnesses. And so today, you all are again our witnesses to this sacred moment 25 years later.
So this afternoon, we were trying to think of what would be the best blessing. And I started reading Song of Songs and thinking of beautiful poetry from the Bible. And I started to talk about the different things that you do around the synagogue. The fact that you plant flowers during high holidays, and that Art is always either fixing something or trying to work on something that's broken. Judy, will you hold this for a second? But the one thing that we were in absolute agreement was how much you give and how you don't ask for anything. And that to me is just so romantic and beautiful. And is so meaningful to us as a synagogue and as a community. It also defines who you are. And with one exception and one word, which I would like to just share, and that is the word fun. Those of you who know Art and Judy, you know that wherever they're going, whatever is going on, there's going to be some really big fun that is going to be had or made. And I think that's a really important example for all of us, because you give and yet you don't ask to receive. And always, wherever you go, there's simcha. May you continue to be blessed with all of the things that you give to us, and may you also carry on. And may we continue to be blessed by the simcha that you share with all of the world, all of the community, and that's clear, the love between the two of you.
So Judy and Art, you have been such a blessing to us, so we get to honor you with a blessing as well. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka.
May God's light dance upon you and shine as you go on your way.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you always feel the presence of God above you, and may you be granted with wholeness and peace for 25 more years and another 25 after that. And we're going to keep on celebrating. We just love you guys so much.
Thank you.
I'll take the upside down kuppah.
Yeah.
I would also ask, is there anyone here who doesn't know Art and Judy Lewis? If you don't, by the end of the night, they'll know who you are.
Judy was actually the first person to welcome me when I started at Temple Israel, and I was like, oh, is this what Temple Israel is going to be like? These people are nice. So thank you for that, my friend. So we know that just as we have the freedom to make these wonderful choices, that so too, just as we ask God to always shelter us with this beautiful, either a sukkah or a chuppah, something that surrounds us with peace, that so too in our prayer service, we ask God to always be able to be there protecting us with this feeling like we are being wrapped in God's presence. And so on page 42, we ask God to spread a shelter of peace over us with the words of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us, Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. V'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. V'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. We turn now and rise to page 46 for words of tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים והופך עולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, נאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. On 53, days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence like lightning illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed. And we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. And we're going to turn forward in our prayer books now to page 60, and we'll join together in this difficult week in a prayer for peace with the words of Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Ki ata melech adon lechol shalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. V'tov Bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. So I know that many of you realize that this Memorial Day weekend is kind of always a big wedding weekend. And it is, even here at Temple Israel. So now we get to invite forward a couple that 25 years from now will be back, just like Art and Judy. Yeah, I know we're still planning the return to St. Louis, but at least now we would love to invite Michelle and Jacob. Come on up. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit unusual. We are going to invite you, if you want, to stay seated, but we're going to open the ark, and we're going to show you why. So, all right. So when Rabbi Michael and I were first trying to figure out what we wanted, it's totally whatever you're comfortable with. You can stand, you can sit. I just want to make sure that you can see their adorableness. I know. So here's the pieces that you need to see. We're going to have you guys go inside. Come on in. Because when Rabbi Michael and I were first figuring out what the ark would look like, now let everyone see your beautifulness. Beautiful. We decided that wouldn't it be amazing if the most sacred space we had in the whole synagogue was one which not only held our most sacred scriptures, but could also be there for all of our most sacred moments. Tomorrow at Jonathan's bar mitzvah, we'll invite him to stand here with us. But so too now the two of you, before you are experiencing this amazing moment in your life, we want to bless you here as well. I will also point out that you may notice that our ark doors have pomegranates on them, which are fertility symbols. No rush, but I'm just putting it there anyway. So. That's so mean. See, for all of the parents, and now you don't have to say it. I've already said it for you. So, we have this idea in Judaism that when we are wishing a couple all of the things that we want for them in their lives together, then in many ways it's similar to actually what we wish for children. We wish that you will always know love. We wish that you will always know learning. We wish that you will always know that it is your task in this world to make the world a better place. And there's no question that the two of you are already doing that. And then in finding this match and this love together, that you are going to be able to go out and make this world a better place. And you can see, just like Art and Judy, that you have this amazing inspiration of so many people around you who have been able to show you what loving couples and families look like so that it comes just so very natural to you. But as Rabbi Michael and I were talking about what are the different blessings that we want to give, I was reminded that there is a debate in Judaism about what is the blessing that you should give to a married couple. And the debate is whether or not you can say Shehechianu. Because the idea of a Shehechianu, which is our blessing that asks God, thanks God for giving us life and sustaining us and enabling us to reach this season, you're supposed to say Shehechianu on firsts. But there's a problem, because you don't want to say that at a wedding because it would imply that this is your first, and we know this is going to be your only. So, but that doesn't mean that we can't say a Shehechianu now. Because now as we offer this blessing, it's to say that we know and we hope and we pray that you will be not only on this bima, but on many bimas around the world, and that you will have many times to be able to celebrate the joy of who you are, of what you bring to this community, and of the idea that you are forwarding the life of our Jewish people in such a magnificent way. So I'll invite you, if you will, to join with us in the words of the Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Mazel tov in advance. So we have so many joyful things that we're celebrating tonight, but I also know that there are those in our community and those who are watching from home who aren't with us this evening because they are ill or they're with someone who's ill. And so we always take a few moments in our service to be able to make sure that they know that we are thinking of them. So if there's someone who you're thinking of at this time who could use our healing prayers and who would appreciate knowing that their names were said aloud here, I would give you the opportunity at this time to share their names of those who are in need of healing. So we're thinking too of Arlene Alpert. We're thinking of Rita Fried and Amy Lampert, of Lacey Weinstein and of Drew. We're thinking of Leslie and for all those names that we're saying to ourselves. For them and for us, we sing a Mishaber on page 253. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor bracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirits, and let us say Amen. We retuned the guitar and it's not right in my head. There you go. Oh, say shalom, b'maroma, oh yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'yakom Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom b'imromav, oh yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. I'll let you tune it next time. That's my fault. So this week we are reading from the last portion in the book of Leviticus. And so for those of you who've been following all along, you know that Leviticus is all about the laws, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. until the time we get to the portion that Jonathan is going to read for us tomorrow, where it finally explains that with all these laws, if you follow them, good things will happen to you. And if you don't follow them, bad things will happen to you. And it's important that the Torah says this because not all of these laws, well, it's not that obvious what might happen to you if you didn't follow them. And in part because some of the laws seem a little bit ridiculous. Like there's a law that says that you're going to have to sacrifice this perfect red heifer with absolutely no blemishes. And there's a law that says that you should never wear wool and linen together. We don't know why. There's also some laws that maybe they make a little bit of sense, but we kind of wish we weren't supposed to follow them, like all the laws about not eating shrimp or any of those things. Okay, those are laws we kind of wish we didn't have to follow them because shrimp are so delicious, but those laws are in there as well. And then there are laws that we know are important, that we know clearly if you follow these laws that society will be better. These are the laws that say things like if you have someone working in your home, you cannot hold off for paying him overnight, and the laws that say you shouldn't place a stumbling block before the blind, and the laws that say that you should respect the elderly, you should honor the poor. All of these laws make a lot of sense. Maybe they're not that convenient. Maybe there are times where we don't want to follow them. But for all of these laws, Leviticus has to come and remind us, hey, the reason you are supposed to do these is because if you follow them, good things will happen to you. And if you don't follow them, bad things will happen to you. Now, this kind of black and white thinking, this is thinking that, especially if you've ever been a parent or a teacher before, you know that this kind of teaching works wonderfully with kids. Because kids are really black and white, and they understand if I do the right thing, I'll get a cookie, or I'll get rewarded in some way, and if I do the wrong thing, I won't get everything I want. And so it's wonderful for children. It's not such wonderful logic when you're a little bit older. Once you get a little bit older, even once you're Jonathan's age, you start to realize that, in fact, that's not the way the world works. That just because you do good things and you do the commandments in the Torah does not mean the good things will happen to you. And so then we find ourselves in this very difficult position of trying to say, well, then why should I do these good things after all if I know that sometimes very bad things will happen to very good people? What is the logic there if I don't know what the reward or the punishment will be? Now, sometimes when something terrible happens, let's say it happens to us as individuals, sometimes we can actually look at our own actions and we can try to judge for ourselves if perhaps maybe we did something wrong. Maybe the reason that we lost that job was, in fact, because we did something wrong. Maybe we didn't do well in the interview. Maybe we didn't do something right in our jobs. Maybe the reason we got sick is because we didn't take care of our bodies. Sometimes when a bad thing happens to us, we can look at ourselves and we can be introspective and say, you know what, I can do better. Maybe this one was on me. But what happens when terrible things happen to innocents? When you have, for instance, children we know have done nothing wrong and terrible things happen to them. Then we have no sort of logical answer. There is no black and white if-then statements that help these moments. Now, the thing is that this is not a problem that we're just dealing with in our generation, right? We are the first ones to say, hey, it doesn't actually make sense what happened in the Bible. I mean, that's why Gershon wrote the song, the things that you're liable to read in the Bible, it ain't necessarily so, because it's not. And for many, many years, for hundreds of years, people have been wrestling with this idea. And actually, really, the first people to really come up with a pretty good solution for this were the early Christians. If you think about early Christianity, which actually started pretty much alongside the rabbinic Judaism that we practice, both of these faiths are growing up together and are trying to respond to what it means to live in a time when terrible things are happening to people. And what early Christians came up with is they came up with this idea of the kingdom of earth and the kingdom of heaven. Because their idea was to say that, okay, maybe your life here, maybe terrible things are happening to you, but in the kingdom of heaven, after you die, things will be better. right? So that's this idea. That's why, I'm giving you some very basic Christianity, so if any of Christian theologians, you can correct me later, but that's a very sort of watered down version to say that when we talk about the idea of, the meek shall inherit the earth, they're not talking about right now. They're saying that things will be better in the future. And this is a beautiful idea to say that maybe I suffer now because things are going to be better in the world to come. It is so beautiful, and it's just so not Jewish. It's just not the way that we think as Jews. And so we are still stuck with this terrible question of when awful things happen to people who don't deserve it. How should we feel, and what should we do? So I want to offer you an answer by a medieval philosopher. Maybe it's just based on him. The philosopher's name is Gersonides, Levi Ben Gerson. And he talked about this idea that our God is not a God with a name. It's not a God with a body. It's not really a God who even necessarily knows you or loves you. It is not a God, actually, who even cares about your thoughts and prayers. What Gersonides believed was that God was the order of all existing things. God is just the order of everything. And the way that I have always sort of imagined that to mean is sort of like the world is this great giant web, and everything and every moment and every action and every human being is somehow connected to each other in this perfect order. And it's not as simple as it is in the Torah portion where it says, if you do good things will happen to you. But instead, we are all part of this great giant web, and the good thing you do here may need to go through all these different parts of the web to actually make something good happen. So maybe it means that when you're standing in line at Schnucks and there's that lady behind you who's really flustered, and you say to her, you know what, you go ahead of me, I have a little extra time. And she goes ahead of you, and maybe, just maybe, she will go home, and when her son shows her yet another bad test score, that this time, instead of yelling at him or feeling frazzled, maybe she'll realize she has a little bit of extra time with him and say, why don't I help you with your homework tonight, honey? And then maybe that boy will go to school the next day, and instead of feeling terrible about himself because he got another bad grade, maybe now he'll be feeling good because he has a little bit of confidence because he worked with his mom on his homework the night before, and maybe he'll decide to not bully that one kid in the corner who everyone always picks on and who's sitting there thinking about some sort of terrible, horrible thing that he wants to do. And you in the Schnucks line would never have known that. But what if maybe that one kind act, that one good thing that you did, was really in some way connected to all of these other pieces down the line? It's this idea that says that actually the little things we do can make a difference. And it would not be fair if I didn't also say that those good things, they should include things like voting, and not just voting in the big elections, but voting in every little election. And by the way, not just voting along the party line, my friends, and I'm talking to all of you because we know that we're a purple congregation, right? So let's just say that maybe for the next election, we will make sure that the people we're voting for are really people who we believe exactly what their plan is for making our country and our world a better place. And you may think that it doesn't make a difference because you may think, does my congresswoman really need to hear another call? But what if your one call is the one call that she actually picks up? What if that one letter that you write happens to be the lucky, 100,000th letter that someone has read, and this is the one that actually strikes a chord in them and makes a difference? Gersonides' idea says that somehow God is all of these connections between us. And so we may not know exactly where the goodness from our good deeds and our mitzvahs come from, but just because you don't see where it lands on that line, on that web of interaction, doesn't mean it isn't making a difference. And if we can make that web filled with more godliness and stronger and more holier than it was before, then maybe we really will be the ones who will help make things a bit better. So it's a tradition when we finish a book of the Torah that we say the words chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. And what this means is strength, strength, and we shall be strengthened. But in just a moment, when we share these words together, I would invite you maybe not to think of them like, strength, but really to think, what if when we are praying for the strength, we are praying for the strength of the ties that bind us to each other, that they become just a little bit stronger, that they become just a little bit holier and more filled with God's presence. So indeed, our good acts will strengthen the good acts of those to come who we may never know. So I'll ask you, if you will, to please rise. And the way that we'll say this blessing is I will say one word and you will repeat it after me. Chazak.
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 V'nit chazak.
V'nit chazek.
May we truly find that each of us is a little bit strengthened and are resolved to do good things and make this world just a bit better. And so we'll turn now to page 282 as we continue on the bottom of the page with the words of the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, l'tet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haatzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adamah, shelo samchakenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol amonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umudim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. On 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated. On the top of page 293.
Remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow.
For their dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember.
Remember our brothers and sisters who sacrificed, kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength.
For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember.
Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life.
For the agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were and for the children yet to be, we remember. And so we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Paulette Green, Alice Hanleman, Eileen Capello. We now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial: Joseph A. Bernard, Pauline Cattler Cohen, Julius Cohn, Marjorie Feldman Korn, Harold Robert Davidson, Marvin Deutsch, Morris Joseph Drucker, Marion A. Fader, Benjamin Feiner, Carl Foster, Adolf Frank, Private Alan Franken, Donald Philip Gallup, Joyce K. Gartenberg, Dr. Max Goldenson, Lois Grand, Leon Gutman, Samuel Hamburg, Sylvia Hertz, Louis Horowitz, Morris Isserman, Albert Kaufman, Lorraine Claire Lander, Max Levi, Belle Grosby Levin, Molly Rosenkrantz Levin, Hope Layton, Sidney Liederman, Bella Lipkin, Sophie Lissner, Clarice Linford, Mildred Epstein Nemzer, Clara Lee Perline, Mildred Platt, Aline Polsky, George Potlitzer, Jenny Polson, Julio Ferrer Prada, Dr. Jacob Probstein, Isidore Riesman, Isaac Rosenblatt, Stanley Rosenblum, Marcia Sachs, Diana Freda Schreiber, Louis Schoss, Samuel Schukart, Sam Tucker, Bertha Lipinska Weil, Burton Wenneker, First Lieutenant Joseph Wolfert. And in honor of Memorial Day, we remember those members of Congregation Temple Israel who died in service to our country: Private Raymond P. Emmer, Captain Wallace N. Emmer, Private Alan Franken, Private Fred H. Golding, Jerome Goldman, First Lieutenant Philip Graham, Lieutenant Lionel M. Herman, Private Louis E. Hirschberg, Alfred Kreisman, Second Lieutenant Robert Leventhal, First Lieutenant Rosalind Littman Schulte, Gerald Robert Steinberg, David Sussman, Joseph L. Swartz, Officer Alvin Bernard Watton, Lawrence S. Wise, Second Lieutenant David P. Wool, Jr., First Lieutenant Joseph Wolfert, Cadet James Henry Yalem. So those names and the names we keep in our hearts, if it is your custom to do so, I would invite you to rise on page 294 for the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ba'alma Divarachu Te, V'yamlich Malchute, B'chayachon, Uvyomechon, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv, V'emru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach La'olam Omei Almaya. Yitzbarach V'yishtabach V'yitzpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudesha B'richu. La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tushbachata V'nechamata. Ta'amiran Ba'ama V'emru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya. V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'emru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ve'emru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Please be seated. So those of you who have been active participants in our services really since the pandemic began know that the Rabbi Michael and I started this custom of doing a secular song sometimes at the end of services, and we haven't done it in a little while, but we felt like this was probably a week that people might feel like singing. And so we wanted to choose something that somehow felt perfect for our wedding and our anniversary couples, but also just a little bit for the sadness and all the changes in our lives. So we hope you'll feel free to sing along. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled waters. I will lay me down. Sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. Oh, if you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind, like a bridge over troubled water. I will ease your mind, like a bridge over troubled water. I will ease your mind. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
This is a lot of chocolate.